The world, as I said earlier, is more dangerous and divided. The U.S. has fundamentally changed its approach to trade, raising its tariffs to levels last seen during the Great Depression. Many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our weaknesses that we must correct. Workers in our industries most affected by U.S. tariffs, in autos, in steel, in lumber, are under threat. Businesses are holding back investments, restrained by the pall of uncertainty that's hanging over all of us. The U.S. has changed, and we must respond. Canada Strong is our plan to build Canada by Canadians, for Canadians. It will attract new investment so we can build more for ourselves, striking new partnerships abroad so we can sell into new markets. It's about taking back control of our security, our borders, and our future.
Canada just showed the world what real leadership looks like, and it's a huge win for them while the US feels the loss. A prime minister spoke with rare honesty, clearly explaining the problem, the plan, and the hard road ahead without sugarcoating anything. This moment could change Canada's future in a big, positive way and shift power away from the US at the same time. The foundation of the speech was a concept Carney developed and deployed during his time running two G7 central banks. He called it forward guidance. It originated during the financial crisis, when the risk of public panic was real, and the primary function of central bank communication was to assure people that however severe the immediate conditions appeared, the institution was acting and would continue acting with overwhelming force until the problem was resolved. Carney said that is the spirit in which he is now addressing Canadians directly, not to minimize the challenges, not to sugarcoat what is happening, but to explain the plan, describe what is working and what is not, and commit to ongoing direct communication about where things stand. The threat framing was unambiguous. The United States has fundamentally changed its approach to trade, raising tariffs to levels not seen since the Great Depression. The close economic ties that Canada built with America across decades, the ties that constituted much of Canada's traditional economic strength, have been transformed by that shift from strengths into vulnerabilities. Workers in the industries most exposed to American tariffs, specifically in autos, steel, and lumber, are under direct threat. Businesses are holding back investment because uncertainty has made the cost-benefit calculation of committing capital too unpredictable to execute. Carney named the source of that uncertainty without diplomatic cushioning. The United States has changed, and Canada must respond. The response he described is called Canada Strong. Its ambitions are explicit and large. The plan aims to catalyze $1 trillion in investment across the Canadian economy. It aims to create one integrated Canadian economy out of the 13 separate jurisdictions, federal, provincial, and territorial, that currently operate with internal trade barriers significant enough to limit the country's full economic output. It commits to building new trade and energy corridors. It commits to doubling the size of Canada's clean energy capacity. Carney acknowledged directly that these are ambitious targets. His argument for pursuing them was straightforward. In a crisis, fortune favors the bold, and waiting for the situation to resolve itself is not a strategy. He rejected waiting explicitly. He described the argument made by some that Canada should hold on in the expectation that the United States will return to its previous posture, that the disruption is temporary, that the old relationship will reassert itself, that patience will eventually restore the conditions Canada has operated in for decades. His response was direct. Hope is not a plan, and nostalgia is not a strategy. The lives of young Canadians have been defined by a sequence of external shocks that arrived regardless of what Canada hoped for or what the previous stable order was supposed to guarantee. The Iraq War, the global financial crisis, COVID, and now this. The pattern of external disruption is not an aberration, it is the operating environment. Canada cannot control what comes from outside its borders. It can control what it builds inside them. The historical grounding Carney provided was not decorative. He described a statue of General Isaac Brock that sits on his desk in the Prime Minister's office, given to him by Mike Myers, and the story it represents. Brock fought and died for what would become Canada in the War of 1812, before Canada existed as a formal nation. Facing the threat of American invasion, Brock built alliances across the land and inspired a coalition that would eventually define the country. He did not act alone. General de Salaberry contributed. Citizens defended communities. Chief Tecumseh united indigenous nations across the Great Lakes to resist American expansion and protect their people's lands. They fought together against a common threat. By doing so, they made what followed possible. Carney said that statue, visible every morning from his desk, reminds him that when Canadians are united, they can withstand anything. The policy commitments he outlined were specific. On housing, a new housing agency is already operational, designed to build affordable homes faster and transform the sector's production model. Asking rents across Canada have reached their lowest level in nearly 3 years. On energy and infrastructure, roadblocks that have delayed major projects are being removed. On trade, Canada has signed 20 new agreements on 4 continents in less than a year, building the relationships that allow Canadian goods from energy to educational services to reach markets beyond the American border. On defense, recruitment to the Canadian Armed Forces is already up 13% following the announcement of the single largest increase in defense investment in generations. This is the first time since the fall of the Berlin Wall that Canada will be spending at the level its allies have been requesting and its own security requires. The defense strategy is projected to catalyze $500 billion in investment in Canada over the next decade. The direct cost reduction measures already implemented give the plan's economic argument tangible form for households. On day 1 in office, Carney canceled the consumer carbon tax. Tax cuts for 22 million middle-class Canadians are saving a 2-income family up to $840 this year. First-time home buyers receive tax cuts worth up to $50,000 on their first home purchase. Ferry fares in Atlantic Canada were cut by 50%. Tolls on the Confederation Bridge were reduced. A new automatic federal benefits program will help 5.5 million low-income Canadians access benefits they are entitled to without navigating complex application systems. The National School Food Program has been made permanent, feeding 400,000 children and saving their parents $800 a year in grocery costs. The social program commitments extended to the framework that defines the Canadian social contract: childcare, dental care, and pharmacare. These are programs Carney described not as policy preferences, but as the mechanisms through which every Canadian has a fair chance to build a productive life. They're also the programs most directly threatened by the economic pressure the trade war is generating, and their protection is framed as part of the national resilience strategy, rather than as a separate spending commitment. The speech's closing argument was historical in the same register as its opening. Canada was built before Confederation, before the formal country existed by Indigenous peoples, coureurs des bois, and voyageurs who mapped the continent and created vast trading networks from coast to coast before the American frontier had moved west of St. Louis. After the Second World War, Canada was ambitious and united. The street, Lawrence Seaway, the Trans-Canada Highway, Expo 67, the CN Tower, new neighborhoods for hundreds of thousands of veterans, new universities to launch their careers. The ambition to build large things in response to large challenges is not a new posture for this country. It is the posture in which Canada's most durable achievements were produced. The address was not a political speech in the conventional sense. It did not claim that the problems are manageable if the right party is in power. It said explicitly that the biggest payoffs will take time and that there will be setbacks along the way. It promised to report back regularly, not through daily interruptions, but with honest, direct updates on what is working and what is not. That commitment to ongoing communication, grounded in the forward guidance framework Carney developed during the worst financial conditions of the past generation, is itself the central message. The situation is serious. The plan is specific. The work has already begun, and the way through it is together.